Have you heard Lil Wayne's song Mona Lisa? The case I'm going to talk about today is very similar to the story told in this song, but the real case is far more brutal than the lyrics. It shocked the whole country due to the large number of people involved and killed. Later, a Hong Kong director made a movie, The Six Devil Women, based on this case. In 1993, Zhang Xiaojian, 25 years old, and his younger brother were working in Shenzhen. Although their salaries were not high, they spent money like water. Zhang Xiaojian, who didn't want to work hard but wanted to live a luxurious life, thought of robbing cars and selling them for money. In his hometown, some people specialized in recycling smuggled cars. No one would care about where the cars came from or what happened to the cars. Zhang Xiaojian proposed to his brother and two friends, Chen and Yang, that there are so many good cars in Shenzhen. Let's rob one and sell it in my hometown. The other three people unanimously approved this idea. That night, they took knives and ropes with them and took a taxi. They told the driver to go to the suburb. After arriving at the destination, Zhang Xiaojian, who was sitting in the front seat, took out a knife and forced the driver to get off. Then, the three people sitting in the back seat forced the driver to lie on the ground, tied up his hands and feet, and then dumped him in the back seat of the car. In Zhang Xiaojian's original plan, after robbing the car, they would leave the driver in the middle of nowhere. However, after discussing, the four people felt that the driver had already seen their looks. They would be sentenced to at least 10 years if the driver reported to the police. At that time, Shenzhen didn't have CCTV, and there were even no streetlights where they parked. As long as they killed the driver, no one would know this. Therefore, the four people picked up stones from the side of the road and hit the driver's head until he died, regardless of how the driver begged them. Then they dumped the body in a pond beside the highway. According to Zhang Xiaojian's confession after being arrested, he was very scared after his first kill. Then they drove the car to Zhang Xiaojian's hometown and sold it for 40,000 yuan. The average salary in Shenzhen that year was about 1,700 yuan. Afterward, the four of them returned to Shenzhen with 10,000 yuan each. They quit their jobs in a factory and spent their ill-gotten money wastefully, going to casinos and bars every day. 2 months later, the money ran out. Zhang Xiaojian and his three accomplices decided to do that again. Like last time, they took a taxi and told the driver to take them to the suburb. Upon arriving at their destination, they strangled the driver to death in the car and then dumped the body in the woods. After the two drivers' disappearance, the taxi companies they belonged to reported the case, and the two bodies were quickly discovered by the police. However, due to the large population in Shenzhen, the lack of surveillance, and the large number of people the taxi drivers came into contact with every day, the case was tough, and the police got no clue. The police could only wait in the used car market in Shenzhen to see if anyone sold the two taxis. However, the cars were sold in Zhang Xiaojian's hometown, so the police found nothing. After 2 crimes, no one found the killers, which made Zhang Xiaojian and his 3 accomplices more daring. They felt that they would never be discovered. However, Zhang Xiaojian noticed a problem. The second time they took the taxi, the driver was unwilling to take them to the suburb at night, and it took them some time to persuade him. Zhang Xiaojian began to think if there were ways to let the driver's guard down. At this time, he thought of his girlfriend Fu Hongqiang. Fu Hongqiang, born in the 1970s, went to work in Shenzhen without graduating from high school. She met Zhang Xiaojian in Shenzhen, the man who ruined her life. After Zhang Xiaojian became rich, he asked Fu Hongqiang to quit her job and gave her money to spend. Fu Hongqiang, who thought her boyfriend was doing business, didn't suspect him at all. On July 5, 1993, Zhang Xiaojian and his 3 accomplices, who had already squandered the money they got from selling the car, decided to rob again. To ensure that they wouldn't be noticed by the police, they planned to go to Dongguan City to find the target and have Fu Hongqiang call a cab. In the afternoon of the same day, Zhang Xiaojian took his girlfriend Fu Hongqiang to Dongguan to have dinner. After dinner, Zhang Xiaojian asked Fu Hongqiong to find a taxi to return to Shenzhen. At the entrance of the restaurant, Fu Hongqiong stopped a taxi and told the driver she and her boyfriend wanted to go to Shenzhen. Although it was a long journey at night, the driver was glad to accept it. The driver's wife and parents were all sick in bed, and he was the only one to support the family. He needed money and thought he could make more money from this long drive. Then Zhang Xiaojian and his girlfriend got in the cab. After entering the urban area of Shenzhen, Zhang Xiaojian asked his girlfriend to get off first, saying that he had to go to meet a friend for business and would come back to pick her up later. Afterward, the driver took Zhang Xiaojian to a cafe to pick up the other 3 people and then drove to the suburb. After arriving at the destination, the 3 people sitting in the back seat immediately pulled the driver to the back seat, tied his hands and feet with tape, and then strangled him with a rope. They dumped the body in a lychee garden near the road and drove back to the downtown. Fu Hongqiong, who was waiting for her boyfriend to pick her up, saw Zhang Xiaojian driving the taxi back. She asked, "Where's the driver?" But Zhang Xiaojian didn't answer. She understood what had happened to the driver. After returning to the apartment, Fu Hongqiong took out her suitcase to pack. She pretended she knew nothing and told Zhang Xiaojian that she would go back to her hometown. But Zhang Xiaojian knew her intention to escape and slapped her hard. Then Zhang Xiaojian grabbed her ID and wallet and said to her, "We killed the driver. This car is our asset now. Don't try to escape. You've already spent the money from selling the cars, so we're on the same boat." In this way, under the intimidation of her boyfriend, Fu Hongqiong joined them. By then, Zhang Xiaojian had successfully committed 3 crimes. He believed it was time to expand his team and improve their crime efficiency. Therefore, Zhang Xiaojian asked his sister and brother-in-law to come to Shenzhen to make big bucks. His younger brother also called his wife to Shenzhen. Chen and Yang also brought their friends and girlfriends to join them. However, at this time, taxis were not their preferred target. Due to the tragic death of 3 drivers in succession and the killers still out somewhere, taxi companies and drivers were very cautious. Taxis were urgently installed with protective nets, and radio broadcasts also informed drivers to put wrenches and other self-defense tools under the driver's seat. In August 1993, Zhang Xiaojian and others decided to rob high-end private cars. These cars were expensive, and drivers were less cautious. Moreover, they believed that men would be easy to be hooked by pretty girls. Therefore, Zhang Xiaojian asked the women in the team to disguise themselves as hookers near the airport, dressing sexily to attract drivers who had the idea of soliciting prostitution. After pretending to negotiate the price with the drivers, the women would lead them to the hair salon where Zhang Xiaojian's gang had ambushed. At the same time, they had a plan B, which was for the girls to find a luxury car to hitchhike and hit on the driver, then invite the driver to their home. When the driver entered the room, the girls would turn on the radio and lock the door. At this time, the men hidden inside the room would get the driver and kill him. At first, the women in the team thought they were only responsible for luring the victims and extorting money from them, not knowing that the victims would be killed. On the morning of August 17, 1993, 3 women looked for targets on the street. Soon after, they encountered their prey. A driver stopped and checked them out. Seeing this, the girls came up and invited him to have a massage nearby. The unsuspecting man gladly drove the 3 women to a hair salon. As soon as the driver got out of the car, he was pressed to the ground by Zhang Xiaojian and other men. Then he was strangled to death. They put the body in a big plastic bag and dumped it in the grass not far from the hair salon. His Audi car was driven out of Shenzhen overnight and sold. After this, those newly joined women knew what they were doing, but they felt it was too late to back out. A month later, they committed another crime. On that day, a CEO of a company met Fu Hongqiong and other girls near the airport and was lured easily. After being arrested, one of the female criminals said this.
他就正好看了我们这里一眼，我们就几个人都看住他那个车，他就一下子刹住车了，就停住车。
Like the previous case, the CEO was also killed and dumped in the wild. By then, several people were killed in a row, making this series of cases the most urgent case for the police to solve that year. The police went around looking for witnesses and searched for clues, but they gained little. However, one thing that could be confirmed was that this gang came for money because the cars disappeared after the victims died. During the police investigation, Zhang Xiaojian's gang was also gradually improving their criminal methods. They didn't just rely on women to lure the victims, but also bought fake police uniforms to impersonate the police. Starting from November 1993, they pretended to be police and asked drivers in good cars to cooperate with them. Through this method, they robbed high-end cars such as Lexus, Mitsubishi Jeep, Crown, etc. As for the drivers of the cars, they were all strangled and their bodies were discarded. Furthermore, in order to avoid the girls appearing too many times and being recognized, Zhang Xiaojian's gang recruited new female members, Fu Hongqiong's sister and the new male members' girlfriends. Just like Zhang Xiaojian's way of dealing with Fu Hongqiong, they first told the girls, "You don't need to work. I can make money and take care of you." Once the girls got used to the extravagant life and became familiar with the team members, they gradually revealed what they were doing when chatting. Then the girls had to join them. In May 1994, a man called the police to report that while passing near the airport on his way home from work, he met a woman who wanted to get a ride. The sexy-dressed woman got into the car and came on to him, asking if he needed special services at her place. Just then, the car radio was playing the news about the recent murders of drivers, which made him refuse the woman's invitation. After being rejected, the woman immediately asked to get out of the car and left. This action made him very suspicious, so he called the police. Upon receiving this report, the police realized that the murdered drivers were lured in this way. Next, the police began to pay attention to suspicious women near the airport, but nothing was discovered until June 6th. On that day, a taxi driver with a serious head injury came to the emergency room of the hospital. The doctor sensed there was a problem seeing the wound, so he called the police. Later, during questioning, the police learned that the victim picked up a young woman at the airport. In the car, the woman told the driver that she provided special services and invited him to her place to have fun. But when the victim entered the room, he felt that the apartment had a spooky atmosphere. At this time, he remembered the taxi driver murder cases happened recently, so he quickly got up from the bed and ran away. Just as he ran out of the door, he was chased down by several men and knocked out. When he came to himself, he found himself tied up and locked in the trunk of his taxi, which was already on the road. Then, the driver managed to open the trunk and asked for help from the truck behind him. Unfortunately, the truck's driver didn't take any action. In the end, the driver fell into a coma and they mistakenly thought he was dead, so they discarded him on the side of the road. He narrowly escaped death. But due to the serious brain injury, he couldn't remember where the apartment was or what the woman looked like. He only remembered picking her up from the airport, and she had a Jiangxi accent. The driver's experience made the police more determined to wait for the criminals at the airport. After 20 days, the police finally made a discovery. Around 5 p.m. on June 26th, a woman wearing a low-cut, tight black dress appeared in the parking lot. The police felt she was suspicious because the woman walked out of the airport terminal exit without any luggage and walked straight to the good cars in the parking lot, seemingly looking for a ride. After being rejected by the driver of the first car, she turned to another car. After she got on a car and left, after a while, she returned to the parking lot to continue looking for good cars for a ride. Such behaviors made the police think that she was the person they were looking for. Before the police could take action, the woman got in another car and left. Seeing this, the police began to chase that car. When the driver found that there was a police car following behind, he accelerated and attempted to escape the police. After chasing for an hour, the police forced the driver to stop at a junction. As soon as the driver got out of the car, he was subdued by the police on the spot. After questioning, the police found that the driver wanted to escape because he thought that the police had discovered his intention to solicit prostitution and was worried that the police would inform his wife, so he tried to escape. In fact, the woman in his car was one of the members of the carjacking gang. This woman's name was Liu Yuxiang, 20 years old, and she was a new member of the team. Her boyfriend brought her in. This was her third time out to find prey, but she hadn't successfully committed a crime. Then, the police spent more than 2 months to arrest all 16 members of the gang. Unlike their cruel methods of committing crimes, this group of people appeared to be extremely obedient when answering questions in the interview.
那时候很害怕，还用自己变成了另一个人来。但是呢，那些人说没事了，没事了，这样就把这件事好像忘记了。
According to the case file from March 1993, they committed 21 crimes, failed 3 times, killed 17 people, robbed 18 cars, and obtained more than 1 million yuan in 14 months. Among them, Zhang Xiaojian alone participated in 11 crimes and killed 10 people. His girlfriend, Fu Hongqiong, participated in 6 crimes and murdered 6 people, being the most involved of the 6 girls. When the 16 people were arrested, they had no money left on them. They spent it all at casinos, bars, and other places. The oldest of them, Zhang Xiaojian, was only 26 years old, and the youngest was only 19 years old. Some girls still seemed calm after being arrested, perhaps because they felt that they didn't personally kill the victims and they wouldn't be sentenced very severely.
我没有怎么样勾引，就是很简单的，就是我们上车的时候，就是，他问我们做什么的嘛，一般司机都会问我们做什么的啦，我们就说做酒楼的咯。他说那你们住在那是我们是宿舍来的嘛，哦，就这样咯。后来到了我们那里的时候，我们说要不要上去坐会了，他就没有什么来的，都是上去的。
The court finally sentenced 14 of them to death, sentenced Liu Yuxiang, who attempted to commit the crime, to 20 years imprisonment, and sentenced Qiu Jinghui, who participated in the smuggling of stolen goods, to 3 years imprisonment.